German Chancellor furious at Donald Trump. Over Ukraine crisis, tensions between Europe and Donald Trump have flared once again, this time over Ukraine. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has reportedly grown increasingly frustrated with the former U.S. president's stance on the war, particularly Trump's reluctance to commit to supporting Ukraine without conditions. This divide reflects broader European concerns that if Trump returns to the White House, he could abandon Kyiv and pressure Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to negotiate from a position of weakness. Scholz's frustration comes from Trump's repeated skepticism towards U.S. involvement in foreign conflicts, including Ukraine. Trump has often questioned the value of continuing U.S. support for Ukraine, arguing that the U.S. shouldn't continue sending aid unless other European countries contribute more. This approach has raised alarms in Europe, where leaders worry that Trump could prioritize isolationist policies and may be willing to make concessions that undermine Ukraine's sovereignty. There are also concerns that Trump could push Ukraine into negotiations with Russia, regardless of the country's battlefield position. Ukrainian President Zelensky has made it clear that peace talks can only happen after Ukraine's sovereignty is restored. Trump's private suggestion of forcing Ukraine to negotiate from a weakened position would, in Europe's view, only embolden Russian President Vladimir Putin and disrupt the West's united stance against Russian aggression. Adding to the tension, European leaders like UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer have emphasized that Ukraine must be directly involved in any peace talks. Starmer, ahead of a visit to Washington, stated that a just resolution cannot come at the expense of Ukraine's territorial integrity. His remarks highlight Europe's growing concern that any peace deal imposed on Ukraine without its full participation would be a dangerous precedent. The media landscape is also heating up. A newly launched television network has emerged as a vocal defender of Ukraine, signaling a media battle over the West's commitment to Kyiv. As Trump's influence looms over the upcoming U.S. elections, European leaders are preparing for the possibility of a transatlantic rift that could change the course of the war. For now, Scholz and other European allies remain firm in their stance, warning that a deal forced on Ukraine would only embolden Putin and undermine global security. The war in Ukraine has become a test of the West's resolve, and Europe's commitment is critical in standing up for the values of sovereignty and democracy. And now, the real question: is America still the beacon of freedom? Once upon a time, the U.S. was the global symbol of democracy and freedom. When Donald Trump first entered office, it seemed like the world might actually respect us again. But now, well, not so much. Europe's united front against Trump's policies has turned into a full-blown facepalm. And who's left cheering on the U.S.? Russia, North Korea, and Bulgaria. Yep, that's the short list of countries still rooting for us. It's funny how quickly the tide has turned. The country once seen as the leader of the free world now seems to have become the center of questionable decisions and foreign policy chaos. How did we go from shining beacon to, well, whatever this is, maybe it's time to reassess what greatness really means. German